stars looked cold. There were not many stars, for the world was still so new. But all the stars had not been finished. I didn't need everyone to pay attention, please. Thank you. There were not many stars, for the world was still so new that all the stars had not been finished. Sorry, I already read that. But there was a great deal of wind. It pushed across the flat land and whistled over the new low hills. You should be following along in your books. It rattled the cottonwood branches and blew the brown owl's wings back. It picked up dry grass and flung it against the face of a young Indian boy who stood at a safe distance from the village of round sod-covered lodges. What do you think the theme of that part was? Anyone? How's group work going, guys? Good. Okay, I'm coming in 2 seconds to check on the theme. What you doing? What you doing? Okay, what you guys got? Why is the book is not even open?
Well, we know that there's a pony involved.
There's a boy.
That's the story, right?
Yeah. There are trees.
Guys, what did you learn? What's the theme?
I don't know what the theme is.
What do you mean you don't know what theme is?
I'm
You did
bored.
this last year.
I'm bored.
Well, okay. I'll just show you guys what the theme is supposed to be.
Positive learning environments that demonstrate respect and rapport while supporting and challenging students look like this. They are support systems that organize the condition in which humans learn the best. These systems accommodate the unique learning needs for effective learning. They also exhibit safe learning environment, which maximize the dedicated time for instruction and learning. These classrooms also exhibit responsive learning. These classrooms should also be democratic, where students have a choice and students have a voice.
Wow, I'm so happy I found this lesson. I think the students are gonna love it. This book is all about Indian myths. I can teach them how to find like the message and everything. Wow, this is gonna be great. Welcome to 4th grade. Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you all enjoyed your weekend.
for selecting video clips that show active engagement and understanding of the concept skills related to the learning objective includes instruction where there are student-teacher or student-student interaction that allow for students to engage in learning tasks to better understand lessons. Also include lessons that require more than just participating and recalling facts. Select clips where students are using higher level thinking so they are developing their conceptual understanding of the context.
So thank you all for sharing your experiences with horses and ponies. The title of our book today is called The Mud Pony by Karen Lee Cohen. This is the front cover. It has some really cool illustrations in the middle. And then this is the back of the book. So I'm going to read a little blurb about what the book is about. So it says, there was once a poor boy who longed for a pony more than anything. So he made one out of mud. One night, he had a dream that his pony was alive and speaking to him. And when he awoke, his mud pony had come alive. So that sounds real interesting. So as I read, I want you to pay close attention to three different things. The order of events, any key details, and most importantly, the theme of the folktale. So again, the title is The Mud Pony, retold by Karen Lee Cohen. And I'm going to give you boys and girls a choice. You can either sit quietly at your desk and follow along in your books, or you can choose a quiet spot on the carpet to follow along as I read. Does that sound good?
Yay.
Okay. So, The Mud Pony by Karen Lee Cohen. There was once a poor boy in an Indian camp who would watch by the creek as other boys watered their ponies. More than anything, he longed for a pony of his own. So at last, the boy crossed the creek, dug the wet earth, and shaped the pony out of mud. He gave it a wide clay face. He loved his mud pony. Every day, he went to it and took care of it as if it were real. How's the group work coming along?
Pretty good.
Did you all find the theme yet, maybe?
Yeah, I saw that he was a good kid and he lived in a poor, humble home, and he eventually was able to achieve status and become the leader of his people.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I find that Native Americans believe that the land, trees, and animals are all gifts from Mother Earth.
Yeah, the book even ends with him saying, I am here to Mother Earth, you are not alone.
I like how you all pull key details from the text to support what you wrote. I'm going to go check in the other groups, and in about 5 minutes we'll regroup as a class. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay, keep working.
When selecting clips that show that you are deepening student understanding, choose clips that highlight how you prompt, listen, and respond to students in a way that shows that you are supporting them to build on new learning. Also consider using video timestamps to support evidence of your interaction. Likewise, select video clips with teaching strategies and/or learning tasks that demonstrate support for learning. Be mindful of strategies that do not allow for you to engage in discussion or conversation may limit your ability to demonstrate that you are deepening student understanding.
Ensure that your lesson has a specific subject pedagogy. Each subject area has its own subject-specific pedagogical focus that needs to be apparent in the video. The focus for each subject is stated in the instruction task of the handbook, and the criteria for measuring your proficiency are detailed in Rubric 9 of the edTPA handbook. It is important to remember teaching effectiveness as you identify changes you would make to the learning segment. Be specific about any changes you would make if you were able to teach the lesson again. The changes may address some logistical issues, but should focus mostly upon how you would improve the actual instruction to address and support students' individual and collective learning needs in relation to the central focus. Cite specific examples of student confusion or misunderstanding that informed your proposed changes and how the changes address the student's prior academic learning, lived experiences, or needs. Lastly, consider how research and theory inform your decision making.
For this section of the video, we will be talking about tips for when you videotape your classroom for the edTPA. Before you even consider videotaping within the classroom, there are a bunch of things that you need to keep in mind. A bunch of these steps may seem more important than the others, but I would argue that all of these steps are equally important and one cannot be overlooked. Now, confidentiality is something that is very important within the classroom. Just in general, regardless of videotaping at TPA, confidentiality is a key. Now, consent forms must be given out and collected back before you even start videotaping. Now you can get those from either your host teacher or your principal before you even get the confidentiality forms. You should have previously notified your host teacher and your principal of the school that you are currently student teaching in that you will need to videotape in the classroom. That will probably lead into a conversation about consent forms, but that's better than going, oh, I need consent forms. Oh yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, I need to videotape a lesson in the classroom. You should let them know previously, before that step, that you need to videotape a lesson within the classroom for the edTPA. Once you get those consent forms back, you may have some students that their parents did not want them to be videotaped. That needs to be kept in mind when you decide where exactly you're placing your camera. You may have to move the room around, maybe change where you teach, so that way you don't have to influence that child's learning just because they can't be in your video. Now, I would argue that you should put the video camera in the classroom the second you get your consent forms back. Maybe even beforehand, but don't turn it on. Keep the video camera in the classroom so that way students know what's there, so that way they can eventually get used to it and that it's just another part of the classroom. Now, one answer might be, let me just edit the student, let me just take them out, let me just block out their face with a censor bar or something. You cannot edit your edTPA lessons at all. Your lessons have to consist of 2 lessons that accumulate to 15 minutes each. None of either can be edited. Now, for the sake of our demonstration in the beginning of this video, we did take some liberties and edit some things, put in some music so that way it wouldn't be so boring, but your lesson can only be you and the student and the content that you are teaching. If something happens in the middle of your lesson and it's too disruptive, or maybe your lesson doesn't look like the best lesson anymore because of whatever happened, scrap that lesson. And just to prepare yourself for having a camera in the classroom all the time, just always record your lessons. Maybe pick a bunch, but you should record a lot of your lessons, maybe even all of your lessons. So that way you have a nice variety to pick from in case something bad does happen. You need one constant video that shows your effective ability to educate the students within your classroom. So do not edit anything. Backtrack to always having your camera in the classroom, even beforehand. You should practice with your camera. You know, have fun. Maybe take a video of your pet, something. Know what your camera produces as a video file. Certain video files are accepted by the NTPA. That's a long list. Are you ready? You may use FLU, ASF, QuickTime Movie, MOV, MPG, MPEG, AVI, a Windows movie video, an MP4, and an M4V. Now that sounds like a lot of gibberish, and I would agree, because a lot of those are not really relevant anymore. Most cameras don't even make some of those video files anymore. Things that you would probably be used to as a QuickTime Movie, an MPG, MPEG, I've seen those. Windows Movie Video, plenty of things make that. MP4s, a lot of things make MP4s, and M4Vs. Now, even if your camera makes the other things that were previously listed, those are acceptable, you just need to know that that huge list, which will probably be over my face again, is what is accepted by the edTPA for your video file. I know a little while ago I said you can't edit your videos. If you do not want to edit your videos, you need 2 constant lessons that equal out to 15 minutes of video footage. But there's a problem. Have you ever tried to email a video file that's like a couple megabytes big? You get a message, this file is too big. I call it editing. You will need a video compressor. What that does is it takes your big files and it funnels them back out, same length, everything, into a shorter data file. It's exactly the same as what you did, except now it isn't 10 megabytes. Maybe it's 1 megabyte now. And now your file can be sent through the internet and there's no problem. Yes, the edTPA does have a data limit, and with all the data that you have to send to the edTPA for task 1, our video for task 2, the commentary of your video for task 2, and what you have to send back for task 3, that is a lot of data. You will most likely have to compress your video. Now, there are 3 that are free. I'm sure I have the pictures around me right now. I use VideoPad in my free time. I know iMovie's another free one, and I know that most Dell computers, most computers that work off of Windows, have Windows Movie Video or Windows Movie Video Maker. Some of those compressors only make certain kinds of video files. So not only should you play with your camera before you take it into the classroom, you should also play with your compressor before you have to submit to the edTPA. Now there's also a question about the quality of your video. You must also make sure that your video has great audio and video quality. That also requires the camera to be properly positioned to show you interacting with the students in the best area. Now, to go back, you may have to change your position so that way you avoid having students who cannot be videotaped in your video. But the most important is that you interacting with the students is focused in the video. Now, position is key. You should definitely know, at least before you start videotaping, where you're going to put your camera. Maybe 1 or 2 cameras in the room. Have them in there all the time so that way the students aren't looking at them, but at least then you know which ones have the perfect view for what you're going to be teaching at that moment. Now, what we realized through our little demonstration earlier with this camera is that the microphone's broken. But on that camera, the microphone's fine, but it's more hard to manipulate where this is positioned. So you get the good and the bad, right? This one makes good videos, that one has good audio. Maybe you want both, sacrifice, pick the best one. Have both cameras, more than one camera, borrow someone's camera. Just have something so that way you can show that you are an effective teacher within the classroom. Something you need to keep in mind is where you are holding your video files before you send them to the edTPA. Now, they should not go on Facebook, YouTube, unlike this video which is on YouTube, any kind of social media. Anywhere where it is not private to you, your host teacher, or the edTPA. Having your lessons out in an open media where it could be accessed anywhere is breaking the confidentiality of not your students but also their families. And we don't want to do that. So just make sure you have it in a safe place. Probably the safest place would be just on your computer, nowhere else. Again, we did take some liberties in the beginning of this video to make it a little more entertaining for you and our classmates that we are showing this video to. But your lessons are just your lessons. They're not you greeting the students, they're not the message on the board, not the message of the day. It is you teaching the students. Now, if those do very quickly lead into your lesson with the students, then by all means, keep them in, but don't forget, you are only allowed 15 minutes for 2 lessons. So make sure that your videos that you're submitting to the edTPA are just of you teaching content to the students. That's the most important part of these videos. That is what you are focusing on. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that what we have made for you has been enjoyable and educational. That's the end of the educational part. Now here's some credits and possibly some bloopers.